on, and she's the singer in the band. And she's like, that was a release from, 1978 and stuff like that.
Oh, wow.
She was just like, and so like immediately I'm like, well, she's older than me. And like I said, it just sounded like, and she told her, she had her spiel about like, Joe Strummer would be a guy that like your listeners would know that like, I was friendly with and this and that. But it does sound like, some like stuff that could be around now, you're just like, this could be an Imagine Dragons song, it could be, anyway, I'm off.
No, I pulled it up. Yeah, 1981. It's
1981, right?
Alan, can we talk about like, when it comes to writing new material or doing stuff now, what is kind of, you have your day job, you have your family, and you're like, you have your time to get down in the basement. I got an idea for a song I want to start working on, and you get some demos together, then you get the rest of the band. Like, talk us through like that kind of process for you.
Well, the best was the 90s when we would woodshed, and we loved the band and their sound, and everybody had such equal weight, and that's what we tried to do in the 90s. But now it's just hard, and especially with COVID. So I'll put down as much as I can, but I won't be prescriptive of what people should play. And the less prescriptive I am and just have a good melody and just something basic, it becomes more of a band feeling song. And that's what I love. Just to reiterate, I love when you hear something and you're like, who's that drummer or who's that bass player? Mm-hmm. Like the Ultimates, Elvis Costello and the Attractions, you take the Attractions away, it's really different. He's great. But God, those bass parts, the drum parts, the keyboard parts. So, once that's established in society, in the fabric of society, how do you go back from that? That should be what you want to achieve. It's for great players and great songs. Like, so in order to do that, I just try not to be too prescriptive and let people really breathe and speak through their instruments. And we just keep hammering it out until we all feel good about it. And
are you playing the leads on a lot of the songs?
So I'm a guitar player and I have all the vintage synths. And so, I'm all the guitars, me and the singing.
All the guitars are you.
Yeah.
I know, he's like an incredible musician.
You're a great player too.
You're so humble.
Well, these are great players. I've been playing with for 35 years, and we all know how to play this music.
But like, the thing is, like, you're getting great sounds too, like, and that's a huge difference between, like, great players are great players, and not to take anything away from that. I mean, musicianship is musicianship. Yeah. But, like, you're also coming up with some really fabulous sounds, and
thank you.
And I mean, that's a make or break kind of thing, and you're doing it. Glad to look, guys, you guys are awesome, and I really appreciate it. And this whole show is very unself-conscious and very, very kind. And you guys, you have a groove here, and I'm just so happy to be a part of it and humbled to be a part of it. For just the secret to get a great sound, for me, listen to a great record. If you put on Abbey Road and what you end up with does not sound as good, then you need to keep working on it. And there is no other way. And you just got to shoot for these, like, the piano sound to Golden Slumbers, or the drum sound to, if you just do not settle. And so that's been our thing. And we're not trying to make great sounding records, but it ends up happening because we're so passionate about the history of music,
And you're doing it for yourselves.
Exactly. Yeah. So there is no secret. It's just you just never happy until you feel like you've nailed that snare sound, and it's right.
Do you produce anybody else? Is there? I mean, I know you had mentioned earlier. It's like, like the 4-piece, 5-piece band. It cannot go away forever. It can't be are you encouraging in that? Are you producing others or?
I've tried it, and it's tough. I think that I would be fun, but it's tough. Like, you want to produce young artists, but then the ego is like, they're like Mustangs. They don't know where they're going yet. They're just going to run over the plains.
Unbridled energy.
And it's like, You know, it's like it's hard to come into a situation and know that the bass player needs to get replaced, but you can't say it. You know, and I'd rather just keep it easy and just
Ringo, you play the tambourine. Yeah.
Oh man.
Can I also ask you this? Since like your professional or day job, you're creating music, that stuff has to get approved, right? And you've worked on something and you're like, this is good. I think this is great. You play it to the client and then there's like, yeah, we like it, except here's some changes we want to make. Yeah. Are you like, fuck? Or, you know, and it's just like, you make the changes because you want to get the paycheck or keep the client, but in your band, nobody's telling you what to change. If somebody makes a suggestion, you're like, no, we're keeping that because this is how I imagined it. And this is what I'm doing.
I'm sure this happens with your jobs, but the best thing is a job that beats the ego out of you. And if you're egoless about how you approach things that should have ego, like music, you know, it's creative, it's subjective, it's from the heart. You could be singing a song about your kids. If there's a way for you to disconnect your ego, you're going to have a better result. And that's what I learned from my day job, you know, and we could think we did genius and our client goes, it's terrible. Well, we start over. And when, you know, if I equate that to plumbing or electrician, like if you go into a house, you fix it and there's still a leak, you got to go back and fix it. It isn't this like, well, I did a great plumbing job. It's real, you know, you should respect me more, you know, it either is going to leak or not. And either our music is going to ring true with certain people or not. And you just got to walk away and not have expectations. And that's what a day job will teach you. And if it's a good knock the ego out of your day job, then you're closer to being a Buddhist with regards to art. Because art is the most un-Buddhist thing you could do. It's like you're just pouring out your soul. Of course you're going to feel attached to it. But when you get Buddhist about art, you're in a really good spot. And that's the objective.
Yeah.
You could be thankful too. You could be like, well, I'm just going to pinch that melody right back and it's going to be mine now. And, you know, we'll figure out.
Sure. Why not? I mean,
absolutely.
I'm keeping it then. Yeah.
You've got it.
I do. I do work with a lot of people that, boy, when someone wants to change things or give them changes, they just fight tooth and nail. And what you just said, I mean, it's like at the end of the day, it's just like, you know, we're making stuff for a client, you know, and if they're not happy, then you haven't done your job. And it's just like, you want to make something that's going to go into a museum or.
And the opposite is when you make something great for your client, the client's going to take credit for it anyway.
Yeah, but you know, I mean, I never get credited in anything I do, but you know what you did, and you have that, you own it. And it's just like, you know, in our field, it's kind of like, well, here's the one I gave to the client, and I'm keeping this one for my reel, you know, when I'm showing people my work. But it's very nice to hear that, like your mindset in both day and night jobs of like, this is making me a better artist by taking input and reaching the end that gets to the point where the client's satisfied, and things you've learned for your day job you use for your band. And that's it. I'm surprised. It's nice to hear that.
Well, I've met a fair amount of, like, through my travels, a fair amount of decently famous people who were miserable. You know, they had hits and they had fans, and they were almost like early like what people that are influencers. They were like, it's like influencers can't stop. They always have to show you what they're eating. You know, there's a miserableness to success and being wrapped up in this thing you've created. And also you're locked into some hit you had 20 years ago and you can't seem to like recreate it, and you feel like a has-been. I am happy that the Mommyheads are like the shiitake mushrooms of pop music. Like we grow out of shit, and we literally are in the shadows, and we're happy left alone. And then one day somebody puts it on a salad and goes, "Where have you been, shiitake?" Like,
this is a great mushroom. Yeah.
Thank you for. I can't believe this is the first time I've had this. You grew out of like literally cow dung and literally underneath bushes. You know, like. So, you know, I'm perfectly happy being a mushroom of music and not like a big billowy peacock tree with colors that everybody, is like fighting over. I gotta.
Tony's already got the fanzine going, mushroom music.
That's right. Alan, for all you know, your audience is yet to find you like 50 years from now. They'll be like, you could have hundreds of thousands they'll find like a huge audience may find you at that point.
To chew on. I agree.
It's all there. This is the whole thing about, don't peak in high school. It's
Hey, mushrooms are chewy. Right?
Well, Adam, thank you so much for you all the time and letting us.
It's been great.
Talk to you, so.
Well, I'm already going to say it. We're going to have him back at some point because it's like
we'll pick you up on that beer for sure.
Yes, especially in September.
Show up at 6, not 7, and we'll grab some beers on me. Promise.
Yeah, no problem. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you, and it's great to hear your stories and your, and your advice in life and parenting and work, not just music, because it all relates, and that you're happy.
Oh God,
in what you're doing, right? That is so important.
There's hope for us all.
We're all in the same boat.
And
just get an oar.
Yes,
that's right.
The only thing I'm sad about is how small the boat is getting.
Right. And why is this oar so tiny? Like, what is this?
I think you hit it on. I think you hit the nail on the head early in the conversation when you said, you really mature when you know your audience and you find like, that's right. I'm never going to get, the Cheryl Teague. But this is my wheelhouse where I'm successfable in.
Exactly. Yeah.
Chris, I'm sorry to cut you off.
I was jumping in on you. I'm sorry. I was thinking about, I don't know, John, maybe 3 episodes ago or so, you had said, you were just like, well, it's tough being around rock and roll. It's like jazz music, it's a dying art form and this and that. And it's only 3 episodes later and you're like, well, music, people just look at it so passively at this point now, where it's just like music in and of itself is like, the way you said it was like music in and of itself is dying. Like it's just it's a dying medium. People there's music
we could
here.
Start a whole nother tangent here about there's more money in music now than ever, but the problem is it's just there's less engagement. In the same way we were talking about the top 3 items are going to be this, but that doesn't mean that there's not a long list. It's just there's no consensus at all. There's no community around it.
It's something that's vaguely familiar. It'll only be able to be played in the background, and people will be like, "This is the best thing ever."
The only place where it truly works and is still truly alive is on September 29th. We're all going to be grouped together sharing this experience.
Where's all that going down, John?
Yeah, tell us where that's at.
The Drum in New York City. And then there's a couple other dates I'm hearing about too up in Boston.
Boston, Somerville at Burin, October 1 and October 2 in New Haven at Cafe 9.
Boston is awesome in October.
Wait, tell us about this club. I'm not familiar with it. I've been out of the city for the Drum.
Drum used to be Beowulf. If you ever went to Beowulf, it was like Avenue A or Avenue B. And
Yep.
Yeah, it's a really cool club. It's downstairs.
Yep.
And we're gonna play Beacon the next night at Dogwood in Beacon, New York. And
so that's nearby where you're.
Beacon now has clubs.
Yep.
I lived in Cold Spring for a while, and Beacon was promising for such a long time.
Oh, it's hot.
It's happening.
Yeah.
I think Peter Bagg was from Peekskill too, by the way. Just to throw that into the.
We talk about Peter Bagg a lot. Yes.
No, the guys from what's it called? A lot of bands are up there. Yeah, there's a Psychedelic Furs lead singer hangs out at the bar that we're going to play, and
we talk about them somehow all the time. They come in all the time. The Psychedelic Furs,
a band I could care less about back then. I hear them now. I'm like, yeah.
Well, we kind of talk about how the first Psychedelic Furs record was very cool and very and then the Steve Lillywhite record, the next one that I really like a lot. But then it's like, it's the John Hughes song for the girls, and that's
Steve Lillywhite was producing Guster, and I met him outside of a club that we had played, and I was like, "You're Steve Lillywhite," and he goes, "I know I am," and I felt like I was in front of Jesus Christ. I mean.
You produced so many records I love.
He basically produced every record. Every record he's done, I love.
Yeah.
And it was awesome. Like that guy. Get him on the show.
Oh, there we go.
You're the closest we've gotten to getting him on the show. So
speaking of, I want to thank our guest Adam. It's been such a pleasure, and we want to thank our